is Writing for College.
And I'm Mr. Volk, and I will be co-teaching with Miss Rush.
So today we're going to talk to you about the basics, things that your kids need to be doing in class, what you need about the class, the expectations. But before we get there, we're going to talk about ourselves a little bit. I've been working at RHS actually more than 20 years now. I think it actually might be 24 years. And overall, I've been teaching for 26 years. I love teaching this class because I helped create it many, many, many years ago. And when I went to the University of Illinois and got my degree, my minor was in rhetoric. So that really helps in that area. So I love helping kids learn how to write. I have 2 boys, and one of them is currently at University of Illinois getting his master's in ornithology. And my son Dustin's 14. He's now a freshman at Carl Sandburg. So I'm living the dream as well when I'm having a high school kid try to maneuver this, online virtual learning. Basically, the thing that you need to know most about me is my goal is to push these students as hard as possible to get them where they need to be so that when they enter the real world or the writing class in their first, college semester, that they become successful and they're used to that rigor.
A little bit about myself. This is my first year teaching at RHS, my first year in the district, and really just my first year teaching, as I recently graduated Lewis University with a couple of degrees, a bachelor's in English and a bachelor's in secondary ed. So I'm really excited to be working in this class, really teaching students and bringing my recent knowledge of what colleges are demanding in the rigor of writing. As well as my background as a peer researcher for different libraries, as a writing center tutor, and as a former editor-in-chief of the Flyer newspaper. So I'm excited to be here. And again, one of my goals, just like Mrs. Rush, is to push students in this class, to really push them in writing. But I'm also here to offer as many supports as possible to get them to that next level.
I'm super excited because with having Mr. Volk with us, it's the old with the new. So my experience with his experience in the modern world of writing and some of the changes with documentation, it's awesome that we can work together and do that. Okay, so the basic syllabus that we have is, I'm going to talk about it, the requirements. This is basically run like a 101 or 102 class in college, either rhetoric or a speech comm class. And we cover the same basic classes, topics of study. So the students are going to learn comparison, contrast. We may get to persuasion, we may not. Definitely we'll be doing cause effect, definitely be doing problem solution, among other topics or style of writing that we're going to emphasize. It all is a little bit up in the air right now because with the remote learning, we don't see students as much. So we're kind of taking it on a day-to-day basis. We don't want to stress them out overall, but we do need to get through a majority of the curriculum. So, it's a day-by-day process for that. The one thing you do need to know is all of their papers will be research-based, so they have to do research for them, find a minimum of 4 to 5 sources for each paper, and those papers will be using MLA documentation format. The courses of study are going to be, at this point, Unit 1, we're finishing up right now, research in MLA format. Unit 2, an annotated bibliography, which is a form of conducting research and analyzing that research. It's not really an essay per se. And that unit will prepare them for the following unit, Unit 3, which is a comparison contrast, what makes a powerful leader. After that, we'll do a cause effect, a problem solution, and then time permitting, we will do blogging. There is a final exam essay for the class, and we give them generally 1.5 to 2 weeks to complete that essay, which will be in that final exam grading category. There are no texts at all for this class. At this point, everything will be shared via the Google Classroom and via the research that they do on the databases from the LMC and on the internet. Supplies are just basically their Chromebook every day and to be logged into their Google Classroom every day. We talked about the 5 required papers. We talked about the final exam. Obviously, they need to be in class and they need to be writing for us every day so that we can give them formative feedback we write directly on their document as they're working. We give editing advice. We get asked questions and things like that to facilitate the writing process and get them thinking about what they're writing, how they're writing it, why they're writing it. They will do everything in the Google Classroom so that Mr. Volk and I can see their work as they're doing it. Students are told that they have to do it in the Google Classroom. They cannot do it on their own Google Drive. We cannot see, we have no access to their personal drive. So this also helps us to prevent any kind of plagiarism that's going on, because we can see the students writing as the writing process is taking place. The big thing about this class is writing is a process. We're teaching writing as a process. So any students that are used to in the past taking a paper, even though they were given 2 weeks to write it, and just writing it the night before and turning it in, that is not allowed in this class. They have to do 70% of their pre-work, their daily work, in order to turn in a final essay. If they did not do that 70% of the work, whatever their essay is at the time is what I grade. Sometimes it might be an introduction, sometimes it might be an introduction and body. If they didn't utilize their 2 weeks to do that, that's all that we will grade for them. If they have no paper written at all and they just turn a full essay in the next day, they will not get credit for doing that assignment. Okay, and the same thing goes with the retake policy. If they have not completed 70% of the essay, they cannot apply to do a retake. Biggest thing in the class is due dates. Due dates are due dates in this class. So they know 2 weeks in advance when a paper is due. They know the due date. On that date and time, the paper is due. And at that point, there's a timestamp on their document. We can see exactly where they were at that timestamp, and that's what we will be grading. There will be no late submissions for any papers. Assessments are basically what we look at every day. We formatively assess them every day. We keep them writing every day. They know what their goal is by the end of the hour. In addition to while they're in class, we will give them feedback that night on whatever they did finish. And then that is, they get a daily grade for that work. That all goes in that 10% category. And that's what all adds up to. They have to have 70% of that work done before they turn in their final paper. In addition, they'll have to do a revision and self-edit sheet before they turn in that final paper. The bottom line is each kid in the class is learning specifically to what they need to learn. So they're going to set personal goals, personal writing goals that they want to achieve in this class. And we're going to help facilitate that and get them on that right track so they can improve their personal skills, because every student in our class is at a different place in writing. And so we're going to push different students in different directions and give them skill-based instruction to help them in that area. Retake policy is students that receive a D or below and have completed 70% of their work may do a retake. They need to talk to us as soon as they get their grade back. We will set up whatever the relearning procedure is or whatever we think they need for that to do that retake. And then they will have 2 weeks from the day they receive their grade to submit that work.
And then a little bit of information with supporting students with IEPs. That is my main objective in the class, is to support students. And there are 2 central documents that students are aware of that I also want you to be aware of. So all of our notes we do in class and all of the notes for lectures are placed into a guided notes document that students can access, along with graphic organizers. So for each essay, students will have access to the guided notes to the graphic organizers. In addition to those 2 documents, all students in this class with IEPs do have extended time for assignments. This counts for daily work. The final essays are still due on the same date as the rest of the students in the class. So that final deadline is the same for everyone, but daily work has an extension for students with IEPs. And if you have any specific questions regarding IEPs and accommodations and how we are supporting your student in this class, please do reach out to me. I'm happy to talk you through the accommodations a little bit more.
And the one thing to think about in that area as well is that this is their last English class, or their second to last English class before they're going to the college level. And so our job as senior teachers now is to kind of wean them a little bit off of some of these accommodations. We will provide them, but we're trying to push them as hard as we can, because many of those accommodations will not be available to them once they get to the college level. So we're trying to acclimate them to what it's really going to be like so that it's not a shock value when they get to the college level. So we're trying to help them. They think we're not trying to help them, but we really, in the end, are trying to help them. Our contact information is there. Best way to contact us is through email. We're both very good at getting back to you right away. So if you don't have any hesitation in contacting us, even if it seems like a simple question, obviously at this point with remote learning, that's the best way to go for both of us. And basically that's it. We're super excited to have your students in class. They might be a little stressed out at first because writing for college is notorious for stressing students out. Usually it takes the first unit or so probably another 2 weeks for them to get acclimated to the class and the rigor of the class. They're not used to having to write a paragraph every day. They're not used to being held accountable for what they do in class every day, where we're monitoring them as they write. So it becomes a little stressful for them, but once we first finish that first unit and they see how there's a definite routine every single day, they become accustomed to that routine and they feel much more comfortable. And then by the end of the semester, they say, oh my God, I used to think it was horrible, but now it's not that bad. So that's our goal.
All right, I have nothing else to really add except likewise, we are very excited to be here. And even though we're in this remote environment, we are still going to push ahead with the curriculum and students ready for the next stage, whether it be college or whether it be entering the working world. So we are here for them, and we are also here to answer all of your questions.
Thanks for coming, watching the video.